Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is James Beattie and we're here at AFC Totton in a director's room for today's podcast. But before we get into the episode, Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about our world class club?
That's our members area. We've got two tiers, a gold tier and a silver tier. The gold tier is £2.99. That's ad-free episodes, early release episodes. Our silver tier is 99p and that's our early release episodes. Please do support us. It helps us keep the show going.
Yep, remember to like and subscribe. We'll get back to you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is James Beattie. James, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for the invite.
Yep. Oh, thanks for inviting us here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're here in the boardroom today and there's quite a lot of memorabilia about. Can you just tell us a little bit more about AFC Totton, 7th tier of English football, and just how did you get involved? And what is your kind of like role at the moment with the club?
I got involved. I've been sort of a supporter of local teams around Southampton since I was playing here. Yeah. And I remember coming to Totton a few times when I was playing just to watch games.
Mm.
But then I had my career in coaching and was moving all over the country, and I left Wigan in November of 22, and the current CEO at the club is Steve Brookwell, and we've been friends for a long time. He used to be one of the main sponsors in the Southampton lounges at the Dell.
Right, yeah.
And I went up to he used to give out the man of the matches and stuff like that. And I went up to the lounges a few times. We became friends, and he knew that I was going to take a bit of time out because my son was doing his GCSEs that year, and we were having a bit of work done at the house. So he said, would you mind coming down and helping us out? I think the main objective is to try and help professionalise the club and continue that work that Jimmy Ball, who's the manager, has started. But when you get into an environment with good people, with a sensible plan, it's quite refreshing in football. It was an easy decision. And like I say, we've just trying to. I think when Jimmy came in, he said that they wanted to professionalise the club. If they were the most professional club in non-league football, and that's a big ask.
Yeah.
But I think they've gone a long way into making sure that, because if you look at the facilities, the sort of structure we have 2 weeks, we're only part-time, but the lads have a sort of a full programme, as it were, even though they've got full-time jobs during the day. It sort of mirrors a professional week in the stuff that we can give them on their days off, as it were, when we're not training.
That's to give them the edge, I guess, isn't it? Over.
Yeah, I mean, it's they enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think the main focus for these lads, and this is something that I'm learning new things about non-league football all the time, and that's one of the things. It's not actually the main priority.
Yeah. Which,
you have to adjust to, and I think that it's one of the things that you sense whether you can push as hard as you would do at a professional club. You push the standards, and I'm sure that they've got them in their own lives. However, training is they see football, maybe as a bit of fun where they want a little bit of success. Now, the mentality of this group coming in, that the team and squad that Jimmy had put together, was they were winners. So in the 2 years, they've won one league, and we got beat in the playoffs final by a minute last year, and so they want to win things. So you can sort of work on that and develop that, and but then if you push too far, in the back of your mind that it's not the main priority. The main priority is family and work. Yeah, and this is just a bit of fun.
Nice bonus.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I mean, the lads turn up to work to training in the work gear. Some are covered in paint, plaster. You know, a couple of them are brickies, and it's great. You see the sort of the adaptability in their mindset to go from work to doing something they love, and they all absolutely love playing football.
Must be easy to get a tradesman into maybe a renovation that you want to do in your house, or anyone else that works here as well.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't used any of the boys, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. You know, you trust them coming in here, trust them to train, and then trust them to perform on the pitch. So there's no question that I would, I'd trust them at my house. And just on that one, a recent signing we made from Torquay is Roddy Collins, and he's an electrician. And I know Steve's been having him doing work all around the stadium.
Brilliant.
Which again is his main line of work. I know he had a friend up here, and this is something that we try, and if the lads are going to travel from far, we try and make sure that there's things in place that help them settle. And like I say, we're only part-time. We train Tuesdays and Thursdays. But Roddy, we got a static caravan. It's lovely, a big one. And Roddy stays in there. And then he does jobs. And I know he's got a friend local to Southampton that said he would hook him up with a position in his company. So things like that, we do try and
That's cool.
Make that transition as smooth as possible, because it's important. Because if they need to feel comfortable and they need to be earning, because it's not the main source of income.
It's like a relocation package almost, is it? That you would
I think a relocation care package, not a financial one.
Yeah.
But helping, we'd certainly go into great detail in trying to help people settle. If we were to, and hopefully as we climb the pyramid, if we were to try and go into full time, then we'd probably lose 80% of our players. Because we wouldn't be able to pay them what they're actually earning at work.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's something to balance in my mind, having been in the professional game for so many years. It's giving them a little bit of leeway, because again, it's not the priority, but they want to be successful. So getting that balance between helping them and the club be successful, and not turning them against football or too much regimen, or being too hard, being too demanding, and expectations and all that sort of stuff. So that's something which I've sort of adapted to, and I enjoy working with people. I enjoy working in a team environment, but I also like looking at individuals and how they sort of react to certain situations.
You mentioned something there, particularly about the player relocation. Maybe a bit more so now in the Premier League, but you would get that at the highest level. So when you buy a player for 20 million, and then he's come over from a different country and he has to settle on his own. I think I remember seeing something about Drogba coming over to the Premier League, and it was just kind of like, oh, we signed you, now crack on, go find a school for your kids. And that's like a really important part of the player care that often gets overlooked. And I'd imagine even more so it's crucial to get it right at the lower levels when, you've got a full-time job to think about.
Yeah, most definitely. I think myself and the other people at the club, and myself in particular, through my coaching journey, I take that holistic approach, and ensure player care, and it might be something of a new thing at the moment with mental health, and I did that from day one at Accrington, and I think other coaches and managers will say the same thing, and then when a high profile manager does it, the papers say, saying, well, why aren't we doing this? But I think that practice has been going on a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the more it comes to the forefront, obviously the clubs are now looking at it a lot more, and they're putting a little bit more sort of thought into it and an investment. But like you say, it's if you've got an asset, and you expect it to just work on its own.
Yeah.
If that's a printer, that's no problem. You put it in the corner, but you still maintain it.
Yeah.
You do.
But if it's a person, you know what I mean? There's all sorts of different
Yeah.
facets to that. Like you said, if they're moving region or if they're moving country, then they're going to need a hell of a lot of help because you want that asset to work straight away.
Yeah.
And that's only going to help that asset work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I say asset in a loose term, but I understood that I was an asset when I was a player.
Yeah.
But there is, there's a human element to it.
If you're making a financial decision, it's prudent to actually do the best possible steps that you can to make sure that investment is a success, isn't it? So and that includes making sure that they settle, making sure their wife's happy, the kids are settled, because that all helps them perform on the pitch, which is what you want at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure them practices have been in place, but I would definitely know that some clubs do it better than others.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, I just want to ask one thing. What's you talk about the balance of part-time versus full-time. What one thing would you say struck you the most when you were trying to maintain that balance of not pushing too hard, that expectation? What kind of springs to your mind about the real difference from your experience to here?
Again, just getting used to the players and the people, and then seeing how they react to different things.
Yeah. Okay.
And the people who are at the club, the chairman and the directors and the CEO like Steve and Jimmy, they know them better than me. So I've actually been learning off them, while at the same time being in that dressing room environment, because I've been working with the team as well. So which again is it's individual. So the sporting director, technical director, director of football role at every club is different, and some people in positions might be doing two roles. They might be doing technical director, director of football, and they can amalgamate them two positions and then roll it out however they see fit, and they'll have a sort of job description and role clarity on whatever. So Jimmy asked me at the start, you've been in football a long time coaching, you played it, but then you've been coaching a long time, and we've got a great relationship. But I've seen that relationship break down because the director of football, or the technical director, is getting involved too much in the team, and the manager doesn't want that. Right. So we sat down and set the parameters, and I said the football is totally yours, which is what's written into his contract at the club. And I didn't want to impose on that. It could be, James Beattie's gone in as director of football, and I just didn't want that. And I don't really care what other people think, but I wanted it to be clear between me and Jimmy, and we sorted that out, and it's been great, and we've got a great relationship. I've been on the bench for not playing, but on the bench for all of the games, and we converse like a normal technical team would do.
Okay.
And it's great, and I love it. I love that environment, and hopefully we can continue professionalising and see the facilities. You'll go to the game later on, and the pitch, and Southampton FC maintain the pitch. They're under 23s and ladies play here, and it's there's good relationships going on all over the place, and we need to sort of enhance them relationships and make sure that they support us, hopefully, as we climb the pyramid.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so I've got here. I found two places that you were born. I don't know if one's obviously true, one's not.
That's a cracking story.
Edit that out. So Lancashire, and I found Scotland, Aberdeen. I mean, is that? Yeah.
Aberdeen. No, Aberdeen's incorrect.
Okay, thought it was.
I was born in Lancaster.
Okay.
Which I believe is Lancashire, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
Lancashire, right?
Should be.
Lancashire lad.
The name.
Yeah.
So yeah, go through your first footballing journey from young to.
I thought you was going to say, well, talk me through your birth.
C-section.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can't really remember when I first, but I know my older brother was into football, and my dad used to love Blackburn Rovers. I suppose kicking a ball in the garden. But when I was younger, football really wasn't the first. My first love.
Okay.
It was swimming.
Right.
And I sort of showed a nice, a good talent for swimming. I think swimming's important for all youngsters, but and then my dad sort of, because I showed a bit of potential, introduced me to Blackburn Centurions. And then I started training and having a training regime when I was sort of 7 or 8, and I was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So Blackburn picked you up then, in terms of your youth setup.
I
think you glossed over that. Did we miss out on the English Michael Phelps? Is that what's what happened?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I actually have one record that still stands.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was ranked second in the country when I was 14.
Wow.
13.
For what particular discipline?
Freestyle. Under freestyle. But I felt I got stronger the bigger the distance was.
Right. Okay.
But sprinting 100 was my 100 and 200 really. But I used to, I got good results at 400, 800 as well. I never did a 1500. I did enough training during the week. I used to get up before school at 4 o'clock. This is later on, not when I was 7.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. I used to get up and train at Wigan actually, because I'd been picked up from Blackburn. So Derek Hodgson, who was the manager, who was Nick Hodgson's son, he was a Commonwealth butterfly champion, I think.
Right. Okay.
So Derek, great fella. So he nurtured me through my sort of younger years, and used to go competitions and win, and then I think he was friends with Keith through the link with Nick, his son, and then he said, "Oh, do you want to come and train at Wigan Wasps?" Which was a bit of a journey, but being a sport parent, the commitment is total, and you can never sort of thank your mum and dad enough for taking you these places all over, which was all over the country basically, swimming. And so I went to Wigan, and that's when I was ramping it up at sort of 12, 13, 14. Got up, trained at sort of 5:30 in the morning in a 50-metre pool. And sometimes I was on my own.
It's brutal.
Training.
Swimming's brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was good. I mean, I loved it because I wanted to win. And the training, and, you was always trying to, I look back on it now and I speak about it, I was always trying to beat the clock. So as you grow older, you know that the clock beats everyone at a certain point, which is a bit deep. But I'll be on a podcast.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to process that.
Father Time is undefeated. I don't think anyone's beat it yet.
So I was always racing for a national age group qualifying time, or a personal best, or something like that. So the sort of I was pushing to try and beat these, to get these times, or I was never going to win. So I think that's where a lot of my resilience came from, that I then used in my career in football and obviously my later life now.
I was going to ask about that. The transferable skills of obviously, having the dedication of waking up every morning, and you kind of swimming for yourself, against the clock. How do you? In what kind of points in your football career did like times like that? I'd imagine coming back from injury or something like that would be something where you got to focus on yourself for long periods of time. Like, how did that kind of skill help you in your football career?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think resilience, I think, is built up from an early age, and my mum and dad brought me up to realise that you work hard, and you to quote a phrase, you reap what you sow. So whatever you put into something, that's what you'll get out. But then, learning from a young age that I wanted to win as well was also important. And I think the sort of the balance between development and installing a winning mentality needs to be, addressed and to be suitable for, because the other countries that we compete against at senior level, they teach their kids a lot younger that winning is important. It's not the be all and end all at a young age, because I think a lot of football when you're younger should be about enjoyment, and maybe I think some of these, the way it is now, they become too regimented too soon, and the freedom of football is taken away, which I believe they should be allowed to just be free.
Yeah.
But there's sort of, the resilience side of it. I was written off a few times in my career. I love it when people say I can't do something. Not you can't do it because it's not right, but you won't be able to do that.
Prove them wrong type of mentality.
Yeah, 100%. And that for me is one of the best motivators, and I'm sure it is for a number of other people.
Is that certain clubs you're referring to, or just certain people?
Yeah, I was at Southampton, and the manager said, "You'll never be a Premier League footballer."
Yeah. And that's just kind of like a fire, isn't it? Like, I'll show you. I'll be a Premier League footballer.
And
so what age?
Said,
what age
I'm
you?
going to sell you.
What age you?
I've just gone in, probably 21, 22.
Right, okay.
You started at Blackburn. Was your first club, first professional contract, and how did it go there when you first took off?
So I was training at swimming, and I was good at school. I used to love school. I wanted to go into medicine. Now, a few of my mates take the mickey out of me and say that I wanted to be a brain surgeon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I in my young years, and I still have now, and I'll probably never get rid of it, a little bit of nice crazy. So saying that I was going to be a brain surgeon, they automatically link that to sort of my mentality sometimes, and they have a laugh about it. But it was possible. I was driven, and I knew that my dad had remortgaged the house twice to give me that opportunity to send me to school.
That's incredible commitment.
Which then we'll speak about that a bit later, but I'll mention it now because it's relevant. So all the things that they did, like I said about the sports parents and the commitment and the sacrifice that they gave, I got to a part in my career where my dad was a truck driver. So one of the best things I've done ever is be able to say to my dad, right, you retire now. I'll look after you. You go and do what you want to do. Travel, go and see places.
That must be immense.
And I mean, it is. People say, oh, what's your best achievement? That's probably one of them.
Yeah.
Because of the work that and my mum put in when I was younger, and just to say, the repayment of that on a sort of human level is still one of my proudest moments. But that was cut short because he got a brain tumor in 2010, and died in 2011. But I was glad that before that he got to see a lot of the world that he probably wouldn't have done. And then my mum and dad moved into what was their sort of dream home, which was at the top of Brinskull, so you can see Blackpool Tower and
the top of the
all surrounded by fields.
Yeah,
and they loved
King of
it.
the hill sort of thing.
Well, no, he was a
top.
very very humble guy, my dad, and he used to negotiate on behalf of the union for the workers.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this until later on in my career. I used to want him to, but he used to sit in all the sort of meetings about finances or a moving club, and he'd say nothing, and then he'd speak to me, and he'd speak to whoever my agent was at the time, or a solicitor. I had a sports lawyer towards the middle of my career. And even some of my friends asked my dad to advise them, and he never told me.
Oh, really?
Confidentiality. And he never told me. And then when he passed away, they came to me and told me, said, "Oh, your dad was a really, good man, and he helped me." And I was like, "What?"
That's
But
lovely
that's
to hear.
surprising.
Again, that's sort of the measure of the man.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, how that sounds invaluable to me, to have a family member to help you in those situations, because sometimes football agents are known for being a bit sketchy. Might kind of like,
I'm family members, huh? I've heard
Well-
some stories about that.
yeah. Sometimes players' brothers or something, they maybe not doing the right thing for the player. That must have been invaluable to have your dad there with you to kind of listen, and someone who's like knowledgeable in dealing with negotiations, dealing with the union. Yeah, that must have been, and for your friends who we kind of helped out as well. So yeah, I can't imagine how much that would have helped you in your career. But I'm that kind of trusted ear that you can rely on.
I think that's the word, trust. And I think that I've seen it firsthand, where some parents now, or friends or brothers, or I think the agent's exam has probably sifted a bit of wheat from chaff, and seeing these young players as sort of meal tickets,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
their access into the football financial world, which is unfair.
Is it like a estate agent with a house type scenario where they're trying to earn their percentage from a sale, essentially, aren't they? Or whatever it might be in terms of what kickbacks they get. Their
Yeah,
kickback is shifting you into different situations that make their money.
Yeah, which is not always the best thing
Yeah.
for the player. And again, it would be your opinion. What's the best thing?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking, we mentioned it at the beginning of the pod, these are people.
Yeah.
And we mentioned printer, and you've just mentioned the house there, and it's totally not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. Some agents do treat it like that, but that's ethically it's so wrong, and that's something that I have huge beliefs on, and trying to ensure that myself and at the moment this club behaves in a proper way,
Yeah.
which it does.
Well, we spoke to Ricky Lambert, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
one of his first dealings with an agent, he ended up getting ripped off. They stole his signing on fee, and he said he kind of picked up a fly on the coach, and he was struggling, wasn't he, at the time to get to the grounds? He had to, he was kind of, his match fee was just covering petrol, and then you get people like that trying to, con people who have the talent, who should be getting paid, and they're just kind of making little side deals and tucking people up, basically. So it's obviously important to have the right people around you. So
I've got an example of that. So I was at Sheffield United. We I think we were second in the league, and January comes around. I was very happy at Sheffield United, even though I dropped out of the Premier League, which I didn't really want to do, leaving Everton. But having spoke to Brian Robson for literally a minute, I wanted to play for him, and how he outlined the role that he wanted me to do at the club. So I go into Sheffield United, and we're flying, and we're in second in a good position. This is 18 months after I've been there, and unbeknown to me, my representative picks up the phone to Kevin McCabe, who was the chairman at that point, and said, "Oh, James wants more money."
right.
Kevin wasn't happy and said, "Right, I'm selling him." So my journey at Sheffield United was cut short by an agent, or actually a sports lawyer at that time, going in and asking on my behalf for more money.
Without
I'd
you.
never asked him Never.
Yeah.
And I've spoke to Kevin about it. I said, why didn't you ask me?
Yeah, that seems a simple
that's what
thing.
it
You
all-
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm at training one day, and Kevin Blackwell's the manager, and he was great with me. He was Kevin, and pulled me in the office, and he said, "Oh, our chairman says I've got to sell you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "We're going up, we're getting promoted, Premier League." And he went, "Nah." I said, "Well, I don't want to go." He said he wants to sell you.
Because of that situation.
That situation that I knew nothing about.
Mm.
And I was so happy there. I was scoring goals. We were going to get promoted.
You were flying 22 goals that season, was it?
Yeah. The season before, and I think I was up to about 11 or 12. And it was the January.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
And I went to Stoke.
Yeah.
And the sort of the pull of going back to Premier League was there, but I really wanted to stay at Sheffield United and do a job that I'd started to do. And that the reason it fell down was because of that.
Did you address it with that said agent, like, or was it just a case of right?
No, but there's plenty of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
On this podcast. Right now.
They say it's best served
I
cold.
just think there will be a time and a place,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
and that'll fall into my lap.
definitely. Yeah, so talk us through your career then. Obviously, Blackburn boy, you play for your hometown club. Around the time where they was like challenging for Premier League, right? And Kenny Dalglish was there. Would you have been in the youth academy then coming through?
I was still at school.
Yeah.
But I was playing. I remember playing in a youth cup
Right.
final. No, semi-final against Burnley. Was it a final? It was a Lancashire Youth Cup final.
Right, okay.
And I was still at school, and we played at Turf Moor. But I guess it's an indication of what Blackburn thought of me at that point.
Yeah.
16 years or something.
15.
15. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And we played at Turf Moor, and we got battered 5-0. So that was a bit of a wake-up call.
Wow. Yeah.
But they had a good time. They had a good team. We had a good team, but they had a good team as well. And it was the definite. I felt like a boy against men, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I was going to continue at school. I did well in my GCSEs, and obviously this career in medicine, I needed to be academically, hardworking. And Blackburn came in, and they said, we want to make James an offer to come on as a YTS as it was back then.
Yeah.
So
is that to your family, that approach to you, or?
it was to my dad, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And, my dad being well versed in negotiations,
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time, and they probably didn't know. He would have known what investment he put into my education, and I was really happy. I love going to school, love learning. I still love learning now, but it's obviously a different subject. And they offered me a 2-year YTS and 1-year pro.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good.
My dad didn't even tell me about that.
3 years then. Is that
3
right?
years.
Yeah. Okay.
So it took, you do your 2-year YTS,
Yeah.
and then I had a year pro at the end of it. So it would have.
That's
been
unusual though,
I was
right?
gonna
Usually you
say-
just get your YTS, and at the end they'll decide whether you're a pro or not.
Yeah.
But to offer you that for into 15,
Yeah.
that's pretty big.
So he used the interest to buy you that year pro to prove yourself.
No,
essentially.
that was their initial offer,
Oh right.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
because they seen something, and the scout who I'm still friends with today, a guy called Derek Langley. We always have a chuckle about it, because he said I was telling them there's definitely something there, and I was raw, because I was concentrating on swimming, so all the sort of sessions that you would go to as a youngster to learn technical skills and all that sort of stuff, I was swimming, so
Right.
I wasn't getting that schools of excellence and all that sort of stuff. But I was then I stopped playing. I stopped swimming. Sorry, because I got a shoulder injury. I haven't said that, but I stopped swimming and then concentrated on football and my schoolwork. But I was playing all the way through, but just only messing. And then
Not bad. Only messing. Get signed for Blackburn.
This is great.
yeah, I know.
Do you mean
And it's
grassroots now? Was it, you just literally
played for clubs and school, and
Okay.
you know, and that's where he saw me actually playing for school.
Okay.
And my strike partner at that point was a guy called Michael Poole, who was my best mate at school.
Mm.
And I think the attributes that I'd got from swimming, sort of the lung capacity, the fitness, the strength. I was a bit bigger than, you know, but I suppose a good trick is knowing where the net is. And I used to score a few goals. I mean, me and Pooley were prolific up front. And actually, Michael got a trial as well, I think.
Right. Okay. So
we used to go down to Witton Park, which is near Blackburn, and train with sort of Blackburn's. It would have been an extra training session for the youth setup. So the lads that were actually on YTSs, we used to go and train with them. And so they offered a 2 year YTS, 1 year pro, and my dad said no straight away.
oh wow.
I didn't know that at the time. He didn't even tell me they'd offer me a 2 year YTS, 1 year pro. He just went, no. He said, I need more security for my son. And so then I think they went to a 1 year YTS, 2 year pro.
Right.
No.
Just pro.
No. So then he said, and then obviously the numbers were, I can't even remember. I'll remember, but they weren't. YTS, I started on 21.50 a week.
Mm.
And I remember saving up. There was a shop in Blackburn called Originals, who my now friend used to own, Jav, and it was called V2, and there was another one called Originals. And I remember saving up for about 4 weeks to buy a Ralph Lauren shirt,
Nice.
white one.
Yeah.
And I remember wearing it, you know, out in town.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, sidetrack there. But that was a decent memory. But then, so it was a 1 year YT, 2 year pro, and he said no to that. And then he settled on. So all this negotiation was going on without my knowledge. I think it was a 6 month YTS, 2.5 year pro.
Wow. Okay.
So he wasn't bad, my dad.
Sign things to come.
Yeah,
then. That sounds like.
Well, obviously, that's a big commitment from a football club.
Mm.
It is, yeah.
But he leveraged my education because he said he
Right.
wants to stay at school, which I did. So then he comes to me with this proposal that Blackburn have given him, and Blackburn, by the way, Blackburn was my hometown club, and absolutely loved them. Went home and my dad took me to games. First game when I was 7, and I absolutely loved the club.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when Jack was in charge, and
Yeah.
we had the success with Kenny and Ray Harford and Asa and Tony Parks, and it was just and I was actually in and around that in the year that they won.
Yeah.
But then I joined the sort of year after as a YTS. So he came to me, my dad, and he said, right, Blackburn have offered you a contract, or this is what it is. Doesn't matter about the money, although it was, I think I went on 300 quid, and then 350. He said, it's your decision. He said, but I'll just tell you this: you can give football a go. If it doesn't work out, you can always fall back on your education, which is what I plan to do anyway. You can continue your education and not take the football route, but you might always be thinking, what if?
Yeah.
He said, it's your decision. You make it. I said, I want to give it a go. And that was it.
So around that time, Alan Shearer at Blackburn.
Yeah.
So was he like a big kind of inspiration for you, I'd imagine? Like goal scorer, England, international. He must have been someone to look up to as you're coming through the academy.
Yeah, of course.
Chris Sutton as well, wasn't he there?
Sutton,
Yeah.
it was littered with
SAS was
Mike
it?
Newell.
Shearer and
Mike Newell round.
Mike Newell,
Yeah.
yeah,
I quite like
Tim Sherwood,
Colin Hendry,
David
at the back,
Beattie.
Yeah, Hendry, yeah.
Colin
Good
Hendry,
side. Sherwood.
Flowers?
Ian Pearce, Tim Flowers.
Sherwood, yeah.
I know Tim now.
Yeah.
Weird, it's strange, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
But he obviously one of like my sort of heroes. That the whole team, the club it was great. And then I signed, and you're in the same building as these people that you've been worshipping for years.
Yeah.
And they were great. They were brilliant. Shearer was used to come in after a weekend. We'd play a game, and he'd come in and sit in the dressing room, and all lads would go like that
I bet, yeah.
because he was flying.
He was in his prime
You know
then,
what I
wasn't he? I
mean?
think.
Yeah,
Absolute
flying.
peak,
Like,
yeah.
Athletically, like he
And
was.
he
on
was,
it,
yeah, he
on
was a
it.
monster. Yeah, but not upper body physically. It was in his legs and his. You know what I mean?
Mm.
His legs were massive.
You said that, didn't you, about the power of his shots?
Yeah, so for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
that's what we've had a few people on the show debating whether Alan Shearer's world class or not. But
Behave yourself.
so,
Well,
but for,
actually, this
for
is
me,
a good
When
one.
Blackburn won the Premier League, he was the best player on the planet,
yeah,
bar none.
Yeah.
for me, it's his power that's made him world class. Obviously, he don't score 260 goals. I think is you have one attribute. We have many attributes, but one in particular that stands out. And for Shearer, it was just a sheer power, wasn't it?
Goal scoring, wasn't it?
Just absolute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
anyway,
powerhouse.
I remember when we signed him, he made his debut at Palace at Selhurst Park, and bought him for 3.6 million, and he scored 2 goals in that game. And I was just like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah. Was it Wilcox and Ripley on either side, was it?
Wilcox, yeah,
Maybe.
Jace,
Yeah.
Stu,
Yeah.
Great side. You made your debut against Arsenal, is that right? So
true.
it's not
Easy
not a
one.
bad club to come on against. What was that like coming
Before-
on?
Before you go into that, though,
Oh, right, okay.
just your reaction on the Shearer. So I'm assuming you declare him as world class.
What?
Yeah, okay.
Well,
That's not even
That'll
a
do.
question.
Fair
Matt
enough.
Letizia, he said he wasn't world class. So
Did he not- what?
Yeah,
He said he weren't world class.
yeah.
There's a few, actually. You'd be surprised.
Well,
Just a little bit below.
pretty much everyone we asked actually.
Yeah.
The kind of most consistent answer we got was world class goal scorer, but not a world class player. But
Depends
I
on your
mean-
definition, I suppose, of what you think.
And that's why we're
Is-
here.
And your reaction here,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tony Cotty, another one. Didn't class him in that.
world class.
Yeah, Tony
Tony
Cotty.
You didn't class Alan Shearer as world class.
No.
No,
World class goal scorer
That's big coming from.
He's a good player.
Tony.
Cotty was great
Yeah.
goal scorers
He
himself,
was,
wasn't
yeah.
he?
in his early days,
Yeah.
yeah.
Carlton
But,
Palmer as well, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
for some reason it's created a lot of debate, so that's why we ask.
Pretty much. But
Yeah,
Yeah, that season that they won the title, absolutely best player on the planet.
yeah.
So I think that might be world class.
What was the buzz like around the club at that time? Because that was, I say unexpected. It
It
was,
was incredible
yeah.
because to be part of it as a, for it to be your not your club, but the team that you supported to be in and around it. I remember when they won the title. Because I was local. They had the party or some of it at this back at the stadium, and a few of the YTS lads came in to the stadium, and they were all the families were there and everything like that, and they were sponsored by McEwan's at the time, and I remember I'm sure it was Jason Wilcox. He went and got us a crate of McEwan's Live.
Okay.
So we went sort of around the corner and we were having a few, but like watching the party, it was just
Unbelievable.
It's just incredible. The journey that Jack Walker took him on
Yeah.
was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you then.
No, that's fine. I was just mentioning about your debut against Arsenal. Obviously, if you're gonna have a debut against anyone, that's gotta be up there in your top 3 or 4, isn't it? So what was that like? That's gotta be a moment where you've arrived.
It was, yeah. I wasn't actually playing, and then I'm sure one of the strikers got injured on Friday. I'm sure it was Shearer. I'm sure it was. And yeah, he called me up to the sort of first team training pitch, put a bib on, and that was it. And then I actually played the next day.
Wow.
What year was that? Was
Awesome.
98? Was that the 98 side or
No, I went to Southampton in '98.
Or
Yeah,
96,
96,
7,
that would have been
96,
when it-
97?
Yeah.
Yeah, 96, 97.
So you got Adams, Keown.
Yeah, that back
It was
four.
a little bit of a baptism, and
Yeah.
it because I said it before, it reminded me a little bit of the Burnley game.
Men against
And I
boys.
felt,
Yeah.
I felt
Mm.
I did okay, and I remember
Yeah.
Ian Wright scored 2, and he came to me after the game and he said, "Don't worry, son." He said, "You keep playing like that, you'll be all right,"
Yeah, it
which
is.
is nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But
Didn't have to say that. did
Right, knowing Wright, he has I've met him a few times now on different things, and he's like that,
you? Yeah.
and he didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
But to me, that was like, ooh,
Yeah.
give me
He
a
was
little bit of a boost.
with Shearer, not quite Shearer's level at that point, but he was top
Oh, he was a
Premier
good
League
player.
striker, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
Unbelievable player.
Yeah.
he's my favourite player when I was a kid.
I mean, that
Like,
back
hero.
line of Arsenal as well is legendary, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
I mean, coming up against them in your debut, it's
Yeah.
But I felt
it's a tough ask, isn't it? But
Again, I was sort of developed physically because
Yeah.
of the swimming, and then obviously being on the YTS program, and our youth team coach Alan Irvin was unbelievable. When we first started, he would do the running and he would win. He was that thick, but
Wow.
he'd only finished playing a few years, but he looked after himself, and he was a huge influence on my early career.
You scored a few goals against Dave Seaman, didn't you, over your career? Was he? Assume he's playing in that game as well, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So
A little bit further down the line when I'd
I remember a free kick, wasn't there?
at Arsenal at
Yeah.
St Mary's.
yeah. Well, moving on to Southampton, obviously 4 appearances for your hometown club. How did the transfer come about? Was it Dave Jones who signed you at Southampton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of what was your conversations with Dave? And I would imagine your dad was involved again in those negotiations, or was he?
So when I said I was still at school,
Mm.
and I used to train with Blackburn's youth team at Whitton Park AstroTurf. When I used to go there, Dave Jones's son was training.
All right.
Oh, right.
He was a centre half, and I used to play against him and beat him up a bit.
Twisted him up a
Not
bit.
beat
Yeah.
him up, but, I was
Bully
on
him.
the pitch, on the pitch,
Yeah.
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 So Dave was obviously in the game at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He might have been at Wolves or something at that time, and he said that's the first time I saw you,
Okay.
Right.
and he said I wasn't surprised that Blackburn give you something, and a week before, David signed Stuart Ripley from Blackburn,
Right.
and he said to Rippers, "What do you think about Beach? Should I go and get him?" And Rippers went 100% yes.
Yeah.
So then I went down to, I got the phone. I was at Blackburn, and I'd worked it out in my head. This is what I was going to do. I was going to try and get more first team appearances, try and get a few goals, and then slowly work my way in, which was going to be difficult, but I thought I
Yeah.
can do it. Because at that time they had so much financial buying power, it was they could just sort of airdrop, and for a local lad to try and break through would have been more difficult. But I thought, right, this is what I'm going to do. And then I got a phone call. I was playing golf. Tom Finn, the secretary, never forget it. He said, "Right, James, we've sold you to Southampton." Started crying. Not ashamed to admit it. Because of the emotional attachment to the club
Yeah,
and everything
definitely.
that had gone on. And I thought, oh no, Southampton's not, it's miles away. Never lived away from home, because we lived in Blackburn, and to go to the training
It's a long
ground
way
wasn't
away.
far.
Yeah.
So I remember going down. I met Dave. He outlined what he wanted me to do in Southampton. Again, probably saw me as more of a signing in 1, 2, 3 years maybe, and I said, yeah, okay, yeah, I want to come. And then I just transferred what I'd set out in my mind at Blackburn, and then transferred the colours and everything, and just transferred it down to Southampton
Mm.
and worked hard. And he said, you might not get into the team, but you'll contribute in ways, and we'll work together. And he said, I've seen you play. I know what your attributes are. And he said, I'm hopeful you'll be able to establish yourself down here.
Yeah.
And I think I got into the team in November. It was the Great Escape year, and I ended up getting Player of the Year. So what I'd sort of thought through in my mind, and what Dave helped me with, and all my teammates helped me with, was that. And we stayed up. I think we stayed up at next to last game of the season, or last game of the season.
Mm. Well, going into Southampton, there's some big players there, wasn't there? Obviously, Matt Tissier being Le God, as he's known down there. What was that like, getting to see Matt up close in training and things like that? Obviously, massively skillful player. But, I'd imagine the service for you in training was pretty good. So, yeah.
Yeah,
what was
again,
that
like you said, with for younger players to watch somebody with that quality.
Mm.
But not only that. So when Tiz scored his what he says is his best goal, he scored at Ewood.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Where he's
Tim
twisted
Flowers is in
Mark
goals,
Atkins
isn't he?
up
Yeah.
in
Scored
midfield.
against Tim Flowers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
against his mate, he says.
Yeah.
And, so I was in the crowd at that game
Wow, yeah. So,
as a sort of 13, 14-year-old, and I remember standing up and applauding, because it was just
unreal,
so.
isn't it?
Then fast forward 5 or 6 years, and I walk into a dressing room and he's sat there.
Yeah, it's nuts. Sounds nuts, yeah.
Yeah.
But that dressing room and all the guys in there were great with me.
Mm.
And we mentioned at the beginning about settling in, and they had a massive impact on that, helping me settle in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the Hilton for 4 months. David Howells had just signed from Tottenham, so he'd been at Tottenham for 10 years.
Midfielder?
Midfielder, yeah.
Yeah.
So he sort of took me under his wing as well, and we remain great friends till this day. And in all dressing rooms, if you're lucky if you keep in contact with 3 or 4 lads, but that Southampton dressing room, I'm in touch with virtually every single one of them.
So what sort of players were knocking around there? Was
Carlton Palmer there
yeah,
as well?
Tiz, yeah. David, yeah.
Wayne
David
Bridge,
Hurst.
I got down here.
Bridgie was a bit younger,
Okay.
Yeah.
so probably Bridgie was in the youth setup at that time,
Yeah.
but obviously made his way through in a big way.
Pahas I got here.
Marion came in later on.
Paul Jones was the goalkeeper.
Jonah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yes, it's on
Franny.
great side on paper.
Kenny
McVan,
Moncal,
was it?
Matty Oakley, Dave Hughes.
Yeah.
I got a couple of Ecuadorians down here as
Dodsey.
well. Delgado
Yeah,
and
Dodsey, yeah.
Charla.
Delgado was later at St Mary's,
Yeah.
but initially walking into that dressing room,
Yeah.
it was crazy. And my dad used to deliver to Romsey, which is a
Oh,
village
okay.
just over.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, right, yeah.
And
yeah.
I went with him once, and I thought we were travelling for about 3 days. Honestly. But it's probably only 6 hours in the truck. And then I remember we slept over, and we were parked next to the railway track. And I woke up, and this brewery looked massive. So I thought in my mind, when I signed, I said, one of the first things I'm going to do is go and have a look at that brewery. And it was tiny. It was so small.
Microbrewery.
Yeah. That's brilliant. What about training then? Because I just like this infamous story. I don't know if you was there at the time where Matt Tissier and Palmer had a bit of a falling out. And I think Palmer was digging him out a bit for not doing running. And he said, the reason why you're here is you do the running and pass the better players like me. So I think that's
I think that might have been before me. But
was
I
that before
heard
you?
about
Yeah,
that.
that story, yeah.
Yeah.
But what was he like in training? Because obviously he comes across as relaxed and, and then he kind of, when he wants to, he can just turn it on and pull something world class out the bag. So, what was like some training grounds or stories and things?
Have you seen his video? Unbelievable.
No,
No.
don't think so.
So that's it's a montage of his goals.
Yeah, I've seen a few
We
of
see-
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
see-
And they're crazy.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff he did in training was even better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but-
get and like you say, as a young player, you're constantly getting that wow factor. and I'm in his team.
Yeah.
But you're watching it every day. But you know, as a person as well, I suppose he could have seen me as a threat. He was sort of coming twilight years of his career. You know, I'm never ever going to get anywhere near him technically. He could have sort of seen me as a threat and gone, "Oh, young buck coming in," and you know, but he didn't. He embraced me, and it was. He was just a. I try and concentrate, and now it's what I do for myself. I try and concentrate on the person and the person that he was and is now. You know, we're still really good friends.
Yeah.
And now you're a bit older, you understand that, and because of what Shearer was doing, and you know, then them lads embracing me, and the other seniors at Blackburn, you know, Gary Flitcroft and all of them, they were so loud and raucous. Honestly, it was just it was great to be around, because I thought, oh yeah, that'd be what I'd be doing if I was, you know, being successful and talking the talk but walking the walk as well, and actually going and producing.
Yeah.
And I sort of took that role on with the younger players at Southampton as being a little bit of a mentor or a sounding board, or, you know, telling them what you need to do, and the hard work and dedication and all that. And I'd come in from training, and players like Leon Best and Dexter Blackstock, they'd have all my clothes on, and my jackets and my watch and stuff like that. And I'd say, yeah, it's no problem. I said, but that doesn't come easy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just going to walk in and just do it. I said, this is what you'll have to do. You know, this, and this, and make sure you do it every single day, and you're consistent with it, with your behaviours and your habits and everything like that. So I took that. They actually taught me, even though that was probably, it was me as a person, because it brought that out of me. And that sort of, I used to speak to the pastor as well, the vicar or whatever they call it at clubs, and he would say, well, would you speak to the young lads and tell them your journey, and tell them what you think they need to sort of employ to make it, because the failure rate's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
I bet it's got even more as the years have gone on, possibly.
Because there's more participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only a finite number of positions, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, the academies have got massive.
And I imagine the level of discipline, commitment isn't probably what it was. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just assuming now, when you were coming through. Maybe, don't know.
I don't know. I in some ways, I feel for younger players, I do feel a little bit sorry for them with the sort of the way that society's changed with the social media. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot more scrutiny now, isn't there? And if you do make a mistake, it's likely to be on someone's phone, isn't it? So
100%.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be times where they'll need to like grow up in a natural way, rather than, like you said, being it too regimented. Oh, you eat this time, do this, go to sleep this time, do that. Well, when do you get time to have fun and enjoy your life?
Yeah.
Again, it's balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through quite a few managers, your time, not you personally, but in terms of...
What are you saying? I wasn't performing and they were all getting sacked, or no. Telling me, or what?
Yeah, what are you saying exactly, Steve?
I'm not sure. That's another part. Maybe to edit out. Hoddle, Stuart Gray, Gordon Strachan, I've got it down here, Sturrock, Wigley, Redknapp, probably a couple of others.
Dennis
Dave
Wise?
Bassett, Dennis Wise, George Burley, I think. I think they were all...
I didn't have Dennis or George.
They were right at the back end, were they? But yeah, as a club, I suppose what was happening down there with that churn of managers? Was it just the every season the dog fight?
I think I think I mean Dave was a really good manager. I think he was treated unfairly by the club and by society and whoever accused him, and you know, I thought it was, you were not guilty until proven, or innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I still see Dave the odd time on golf days and that. He loves his golf. But you know, I'll be forever grateful for him to give me that opportunity. But I think looking back on it now, and obviously being more experienced in not just playing, but the sort of other side of it as well, I think Southampton were always a selling club. And I don't think the level of investment or the financial backing was there to be able to push the club on the way that probably every fan base wants their club to go.
Yeah.
So we basically saw one player a year, and it started, you know, before me, and I just felt that it could have been made more clear. That's what we were doing.
Right.
The managers, and then I think that's probably where the frustration of the managers came from. You spoke about Glenn there. Glenn was an unbelievable coach.
I was going to say, what was the difference like? Because I think Dave Jones is known for being a great manager,
Yeah.
but Glenn Hoddle not so much. Speaking to Matt, but yeah, I don't know. What was your experience like with Glenn?
I mean, Glenn was an unbelievable coach. He was way ahead of the curve coming from sort of Monaco, and he could have been anything. He was another Wenger. The way he thought about things, the way he thought about the game. But then he moved to Spurs. But he was the one that told me I'd never be a Premier League footballer.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, well, that speaks to his man management that we've
So there's another angle to this, and I see Glenn quite often now at golf days, and he's had a real big episode in his life, and he's changed a lot, and he openly says that if he felt like he felt, or as he feels now, back then, he would have been England manager for 20 years, I reckon.
Yeah,
and we would have won stuff because he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I watched the Beckham documentary, and he kind of dug Beckham out a little bit, and he when they was England manager, and he kind of threw him under the bus. So I'd imagine the contrast. Dave Jones, like we speaking to Michael Chopper recently, he's manager at Cardiff, and he was kind of the guy who'd give you days off, and you know, kind of put his arm around the best players and get the best out of them, and pick up players that are not really performing at other clubs and make them worth money and sell them on. So it seems like there's a massive contrast there in maybe management style. But you also had Gordon Strachan as well.
When he said I'm selling you to, he said, I'm selling you to Palace as well. No, you're not.
Glenn to you, yeah.
So I'm gonna work hard getting your team, and then 3 or 4 games later, and then I got 10 in 10. And he went in the paper and said, "Oh, look what I've done to James."
they turn it into like, I was trying to murder him.
Like a reverse, yeah.
Do you think he was genuine?
No,
I was gonna say,
no, it wasn't.
It's too easy to say.
It was
deadly serious.
In fairness, he probably started a spark,
right?
But I was on that path anyway. But he might have just gone right. I might have just gone, and like you said, with the motivation of when you get told you can't do something or you're not doing something.
Yeah.
Not in a petulant way, but in a, all right, and I'll show you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I had him in mind.
I think
because he didn't know me as a person.
Kevin Blackwell tried claiming that one as well with Paddy Kenny, wasn't it?
He did.
Put him on the transfer list and then put him back in. He's like, "Oh, see, I did that to motivate you."
Clean sheets after clean sheet. Yeah.
So I suppose that's kind of stuff does.
That's a manager's prerogative.
Yeah.
That's one of the many perks of the job, I guess.
The thing is, I suppose it's win-win for them because either you turn it on or you get sold and they maybe get some more money to invest somewhere else. Yeah.
And Simon Jordan was the chairman at the Palace at the time, and he said he went in the papers and said, "Oh, he knows he's not worth it." I think it was 2.75 million, and he said he knows he's not worth it. His manager knows he's not worth it, and his mum knows he's not worth it.
Oh wow!
So I was like, wow,
that's another level. Yeah.
Welcome to the
personal
club,
jab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like I was going to sign for him then, is it?
No.
What
about some of the other managers that you worked for? Obviously, Gordon Strachan, he had a great time at Southampton, and I read not so much, but yeah, kind of what was your experience of those managers, and just obviously around that time as well, you would have been knocking on England's door as well when you had a couple of good seasons in the early 2000s. Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, I
during
mean,
that time?
I've said it many times. Gordon's my favourite manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was, he had a balance of both. His man management was great, and his coaching was really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to get the best out of me. Not that I was a difficult player, but he certainly motivated me. One of the things he would never ask you to do something that he wouldn't do himself, which I thought was a really good trait for a manager.
He's quite young at this point, was he? Like early 40s?
Relatively young, yeah.
In terms of management,
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
And I remember we was up at in Scotland at St Andrews, and we worked really hard. And notoriously, he was a fitness freak. I mean, wanted his teams to be really fit, which we were. But that was such a weapon for our team. So we'd done this hard week of training at St Andrews, and we were doing dune runs. Oh, they were tough, but they were good. Some, different, but it was hard. And he saw the effort and commitment we put into the week, and then he said, right, we'll cut the runs. If you follow me into the sea, and then you've got to swim around me. So he stripped off. He said, but everybody, like the whole squad. So he stripped. He had his briefs on.
Birchie smugglers.
Kept it decent.
He went in. Obviously, if he'd have stood up, we would have been paddling, wouldn't we? No, I'm joking. But he went out quite far, and he was treading water, because obviously a few of the lads were like Klaus Lundikvarm and all the like taller than him, and he was treading for a while. And Fabrice Fernandez wouldn't get in the water, so we ended up stripping Fabrice down to his briefs and carrying him in, and actually pulling him to swim round him. And I just thought that was class.
Yeah.
Different,
Yeah, it's one thing telling you to go run in the sea, but he was actually in the sea waiting for you to all swim around him.
Did it himself,
Yeah.
Whilst treading water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not easy.
Thanks for watching episode 1, guys. Don't forget, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, and also share with a friend. It really does help support the show. But that's it for this time, guys. Have a world-class weekend.